Welcome back. I'm KatyMcKinney, the founder and head of school of Lafayette Academy, and you are at the LadyK Podcast. Happy New Year. Hope everyone had a wonderful holiday, and we're excited today to be talking to one of our alumni. Our conversation today is about excellence, not just as an athlete, but also as a person. And we're joined by Marin McKinney, who is competing at the collegiate and national level in shooting sports. And her sights are really set on competing internationally with the idea of eventually getting to the Olympics. And what's remarkable about her journey is not just about her physical skill, but her intentional training of her mind through her individualized coaching, which she has been doing for a number of years, as well as utilizing the mental management system here by Lanny Basham, a book called With Winning in Mind. We're going to talk about that today, as well as the 2-Minute Toughness book. 10-Minute Toughness, sorry. But this is a system that she utilizes not only when she practices and when she competes, but it's also now influencing how she thinks, how she studies, how she integrates and works with her peers and her coaches, and just herself, how she carries herself in the world. So today, welcome. We're so happy to have you, Marin.
Thank you.
I wanted to just talk a little bit about your journey. If you could kind of share with us, how you got started in the shooting sports, maybe from the early days to now where you are, and how you're competing on the national scene as well.
So I originally started shooting for the first time with a group called Quail Forever. And we went on a pheasant shoot, I believe, with my dad. We were shooting some pheasants, and some of the old gentlemen that were facilitating the program were like, you should get into trap shooting. And so at the time I was like, what's trap shooting? And
how old are you? Sorry.
I think I was 13, probably.
Okay.
And then from there, my dad and I did a little research and found a club team in Washington, Missouri. And then we joined the Washington Claybusters, and I was with them for around a year and a half, I think. And then Lafayette started the Lafayette Patriots, and we started the shooting team, and kind of it's just blossomed from there. And I've been shooting all through middle school and high school, and now into college.
And so tell us a little bit about where you are in college, what college, and how you're shooting on the national field or national scene.
So I shoot for Hillsdale College on their shotgun team. And at Hillsdale, we shoot a bunch of different disciplines. So there are kind of two different umbrellas, you can think of them as. We've got the American disciplines and then the international disciplines. So in the American disciplines, you've got trap, skeet, sporting clays, and then kind of subcategories of each of those. And so our team competes in all three disciplines, and we do that on a regional, state, national, local level. And then you've got the international disciplines, which are bunker and international skeet. Bunker is also called Olympic trap. And so both of those are facilitated by USA Shooting or the Olympic team. Hillsdale has partnered with the Olympic team and USA Shooting. The range up in Michigan, which is called the Halter Shooting Range, is now partnered and the training home for the Olympic team.
And for the USA team, correct?
The Olympic team is the USA team.
Got it.
Most of the time, yeah.
Okay, so you have quite a state-of-the-art facility from which to practice.
We do.
Which is tremendous.
Such a blessing, yes.
And what is it that you're focusing in on? Should you go to the Olympics? What discipline are you focused on?
So I am focused on Olympic trap or bunker. And so it's been very helpful because originally in high school I focused primarily on trap and the trap disciplines, which include doubles and handicap. And so then transferring over into the international fields, Olympic trap is just a natural progression of American trap, although it's very different and very difficult.
I was going to say it's quite a bit different.
Yes.
From what I got to observe you doing in high school.
Yeah.
It's a lot faster, more variations. So everything's changing.
Yeah, harder angles. It's crazy.
Yeah. So actually, I had the joy of of watching you compete in Tucson just last month in November. And I was curious what it meant to you to place. I think you were in the top 5, if I recall. And that was of the top 5 of the junior women in the Olympic selection match, which I guess is the gateway to what?
It's pretty complicated. It's kind of, you have a point system almost. And so there are a bunch of different selection matches that go on throughout the year, usually 2 per year. And so depending on how well you shoot at, let's say, the one in the fall, that'll help set you up to see if you're going to travel with the Olympic team when you compete in the spring.
Got it.
So I have friends who now, because of their qualifying score at the end of this competition in Tucson, they're now going to be going to Egypt and Germany and competing with the women's open team and women's junior team.
Wow.
For both international ski and bunker.
So you placed in the top 5.
I did.
That was pretty amazing, especially considering that you started the sport in January of 2025. At the end, in November of 2025, you had made your way all the way up the leaderboard to finish in the top 5. What did that mean to you to get to that level?
It's been really amazing. I am so blessed to be on a team with so many wonderful people that have been able to coach me and kind of show me in the right direction, or point me in the right direction to know who I need to talk to, what competitions I should be going to, what kind of coaching I need. So that's been wonderful. And I am just so grateful that I'm able to compete at the international level. It really brings an extra level of almost interest to the shooting sports, because you have a goal of getting to the Olympics, or a goal of even just competing internationally and traveling to all across the world. It's amazing. So I feel so blessed that I'm able to compete, and I am so grateful to my coaches who have helped me get to this point already in less than a year, which just, it kind of boggles my own mind that I've been able to do that. But I'm really looking forward to what this next year will bring.
So we'll talk about in just a second here about the process of getting to the level you're currently at. But before we do, I'm just curious, when did the vision of going to the Olympics, when did that even come to your mind?
So it was actually when we started looking for colleges in high school. So I guess it must have been junior year. I was talking with, I guess, you and Dad at the time, and we were talking about shooting, if I wanted to shoot in college or if I wanted to try something new. And at the time I wasn't really sure, but we talked about Hillsdale shotgun team, and we did some more research and found out that there were a lot of members on their shotgun team that were a part of USA Shooting and the Olympic team and the Olympic level. And so at the time I was kind of not getting burnt out on shooting, but I was just kind of like, I'm ready for something new. And I had never tried Olympic shooting at all. And so when we realized that I could end up getting into the Olympic disciplines and trying to possibly make it to the Olympics, that opened up a whole new roadmap for what could be. And it was like, oh, so there's more than just the American disciplines. And it became something that made me really want to continue in shooting and prove to myself that I could make it to become a top competitor in the Olympic sports.
And for those who don't know you, I would say one of your super strengths is that you love to compete and you love to win. Yes. And so I think to your point,
for good or for bad.
Yeah, and we always want it to be for good. So it's always important to keep one's self in check on that front. But when it's a healthy sense of competition, I think that's tremendous. You exceed and you achieve things that you didn't know were possible when you have that drive in you, which I think is great. So to that end, I think to your point, you had kind of achieved everything you could in high school, and then knowing there was a whole nother level, I think, like you said, it opened up a whole new world of possibilities, and that was an exciting prospect for you.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about the the mental management, if you will, because if anything I have learned watching you go through this process is that there's a physical precision involved when you become excellent at something, but there's also a huge mental component to it. And while I knew that and I'd heard it for years, I didn't value it as much as I do today. And I think I value it more because of watching you and your siblings and all the team members going through this process of really harnessing the mental advantage that one can have when you understand how to use it to your advantage. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And it's not just in sports, obviously. You can use it in lots of ways.
Right.
So, but let's chat about when you were first introduced to the mental management system with winning in mind. I know you had a personal coach prior to be introduced to this book with Todd Nelson, who was your coach. So can you talk to us a little bit about maybe the introduction of mental management and maybe what maybe Todd shared with you, but then also how it dovetails into with winning in mind or 10-minute toughness?
So mental management in the shooting sports is, if not the whole thing, then a major part. And so I began kind of getting into this with Todd Nelson, like you mentioned. He was my coach for most of middle school and high school, all the way up until I graduated and moved into Hillsdale. And so he gave me a process that I used every single day when I was shooting.
And do you still use it today?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. All the time.
So what's that process?
So this process has 4 steps.
Okay.
The first is quieting the mind. The second is focusing hard. The third is move on the flash. So whenever the target comes out of the house, you want to immediately just keep moving towards that target and almost move on faith. Quiet the mind, press focus, move on the flash, and then see the dime is the fourth. And seeing the dime is kind of mysterious almost. And the idea is you want to be able to be focused so hard on your target that if there was a little dime on the front edge of the target's moving this way and the dime is going to be on this front edge of that. If there was a dime, you would want to be focusing so hard you could see if it was heads or tails. And so that's just yeah.
So tell me about when you say quiet the mind. What do you do? What's happening when you do that?
So quieting the mind is can be really difficult depending on the day, but or depending on your situation. But a lot of times it involves just taking a minute and kind of pushing everything that is going on around you to the side and focusing on one simple task at a time. So like a lot of times you can think of it as if I'm up on the line and I'm getting ready to shoot and I'm next, I'll sometimes imagine a concrete like phone booth, what are those called?
Bunker or?
No, it's like a red phone booth.
Oh, red phone booth.
Yeah, is that what that's called?
So,
sorry, I don't know that.
For those who were born 2000 after, yes, a phone booth where they used to call people on a phone.
Whoops.
That has a wire, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
you imagine a concrete.
Yeah. So it's something that's so thick that nobody or nothing outside of you and your gun are influenced.
Interesting.
And so I'm standing there and I imagine, okay, it's just me. I have my concrete phone booth around me and there's an opening and I only see the trap house. And then at that point, you also want to forget that you're holding a gun. You don't even care about the fact that you're holding a gun or that you're shooting. All you want to see is that target and have a really strong, hard focus on that target. And if that's the case, the gun will go right where your eyes are going. And so if your eyes go straight to the target, your gun will go straight to the target. If your eyes are kind of wobbly and like freak out and just go right like way ahead of the target, that's where your gun's gonna go and it'll probably end in a miss. So it's interesting because slowly but surely you figure out what works for you and what doesn't work for you. Sometimes having music in your mind is helpful while shooting because it kind of maybe gets you into a rhythm or a focused mindset. And so that'll keep you going longer and keep you more focused. Other times that really won't work and you really have to focus going back to the fundamentals. Be like, okay, my feet are like planted correctly. I'm having a good lean. And my gun is like very strong, and I have a smooth move to the target, kind of going back to those fundamentals. So
Interesting.
Yeah, it is. And going with winning in mind, and 10-minute toughness, both books focus on how to quiet your mind and how to create a vision for success. And 10-minute toughness, our team focuses on 10-minute toughness frequently. And that book also focuses on having a centering breath. And that also is really helpful because you breathe in for 6, you hold for 2.
Are you talking about seconds?
Yes,
I assume.
sorry.
Okay.
Breathe in for 6 seconds, hold for 2 seconds, and breathe out for 7 seconds.
And what does that do exactly?
So scientifically, that actually slows down your breathing and your heart rate, and will actually physically calm you down. And that's been I've had multiple instances where that's been very helpful for me.
Especially when you're holding a gun and your heartbeat's going.
Yes.
That can actually be a problem.
Yeah. Or when it's super hot outside or freezing outside and you really sometimes it's raining or snowing and you're like, why am I here? And should I really be shooting right now? I don't want to be here. I want to be sipping hot cocoa inside or something. But when you are able to have your centering breath and quieting the mind, then it's like, okay, no, I'm focused now and I'm going to hit this target and I'm just going to have a good look at the target. That's all I really care about. I don't care about the weather. I don't care about what's going on in my mind or what homework I might have or what extra work might be on my shoulders right now. All I care about is the next target. And focusing on that just one step at a time is really helpful for success.
So, Lanny, just to kind of educate our audience a little bit, this with winning in mind has been a wonderful tool for our team, the Patriots. However, we have also been using it in the academic side of things for students who are challenged with maybe getting their homework done in a certain amount of time or focusing in the classroom or just their characteristics, their behavior in the classroom or outside the classroom. I wanted to highlight a particular process here that really made an impact on me. And Basham talks about this idea of the 3 circles. There's a conscious circle, a subconscious, and a self-image. And what was really insightful to me was he was talking about when you're starting anything brand new, if you think about these circles that are somewhat overlapping, kind of eventually the center is like a Venn diagram, but they're all 3 are overlapping. Your conscious mind, let's just say I'll take, for example, for me, if I were going to learn how to play the piano or learn sailing, my subconscious would be an overload because first off, I need to understand all the vernacular of that system. I have to understand what I'm supposed to physically do with my body. I have to, everything is in high conscious mode, which means my subconscious circle is very, very small. I'm not even tapping into the subconscious yet because I haven't mastered anything either by muscle memory or physical or mental memory. And then in terms of my self-image is probably fairly low because I'm awkward. I'm not smooth. Nothing is, innate. It's just very rough. And so that actually was a helpful thing to remember is that when you're starting something new, of course, you're going to be clumsy and clunky at the beginning. And I'm sure you were at 13, even if you look back at pictures and videos, you're going, oh, yeah, that's awful.
It's terrible.
But as you grow and progress and practice, that conscious moves into the subconscious. That muscle memory is developed. You're at this point, you're way into your self-conscious or your subconscious. And that circle begins to grow, which then leads to your self-image starting to grow. But all of this takes time and it takes discipline and it takes mental management. So that was really helpful to me. He talks about when the conscious, the subconscious, and the self-image are all balanced and working together, good performance is easy. And I call it, that's when magic happens, is when all 3 of those bubbles are really the same size and they're all working together. But you have to work through that. And it can take years to get to the subconscious. And eventually that self-image is then matching what's happening on the outside.
Yeah. I actually had a couple instances exactly with what you're talking about. A couple of times before a national competition in high school, my dad and I went to Todd Nelson, my shooting coach, and he noticed some major changes I needed to make that were with my movement to the target. And there were 2 weeks before nationals, and this was like a major change. And to make it so that during nationals I wouldn't have to think about it, my dad and I trained very, very hard for the next 2 weeks and really making my movement to the target smooth and controlled. But I remember training with Todd and him saying, I don't care if you miss the target. I don't care if you hit the target. Right now we're focused on something completely different. We're focused on the move to the target and not actually hitting the target in training. And so giving the permission to miss and to fail, so to speak, is just like what you were saying. I was focused on the conscious mind, and I hadn't developed the subconscious yet. But then by the time I got to nationals after training for 2 weeks, you've kind of like developed that muscle memory that you need to move correctly to the target. And I was able to shoot really well at that competition. And so it just goes to show that when you have the subconscious developed enough and your conscious mind is kind of not on autopilot, because that's kind of also where mistakes happen. But when you're able to have an idea of consciously what you should be doing, but then also just like kind of letting it go sometimes.
Interesting. It's a very fine balance.
Oh,
isn't
it is.
Because
it's crazy.
You're in your subconscious, but the conscious you have to have that presence of mind to be active. You can't go on autopilot.
No.
So it's this very gentle dance between the two of them.
And a lot of times you'll accidentally go into autopilot and then you'll maybe miss a target and you're like, oh, why did I do that? Like I knew exactly what I was doing, but I didn't think about it because I decided, I was like, oh, like I'm just like, your mind just kind of goes lax and just kind of goes soft for a minute. And that's where mistakes happen. And so when you're actively, you have, like you're saying, it's a completely fine line when you have to focus on your fundamentals, but focus on the target. You can't focus on the result, because if you focus on the result, you're not focused in the moment. And focusing in the moment is crucial. And so you have to manage all these different parts in your mind within 5 seconds. And it's exciting when you actually understand what's going on, and you're in the moment and you're doing it.
That's amazing.
Anyway,
well, and we're going long, but there's a great story in here about Lanny when he was going through this process of becoming one of the top in the world. I think he won the world championship 5 times, I think, and gold medal 2 or 3 times. Don't quote me on that. But all that to say, when he sat down, briefly, I'll share the story. When he sat down with some of the best in the world, he had yet to learn about the mental management process. And he came and sat down at lunchtime, and they're all sitting there talking, and he starts talking about his misses, and he talks about his mistakes, and he's going into this 5-minute monologue about this, and everyone was quiet. And at first he's like, oh, they're listening to me. Oh, I've got the floor here. Yeah. And he was feeling all proud. And finally, one of the world champion who he was sitting next to grabs him by the collar, pulls him over, and says, we don't talk like that here. And all of a sudden it woke him up. It was a humbling moment where he was like, oh, and he shut up and he just listened, and he started to observe more, and he realized they didn't talk about where they failed. They talked about where they succeeded, which began to clue him in on how those who are at the Olympic level, who are at the world level, how do they think? And what you're talking about is how they think. And so let's direct us to this now. This is the mental management or performance journal. Everyone on our team in high school, middle school has a journal like this. What I have found, I have actually started using this with some of our students on the academic and the character front. And what I love is that there's always a goal statement. And so in that you have, the key component of that is it always starts with, it's like me to blank. And so then you formulate your goal. Do you remember any of your goals from the past?
Oh, I think in high school, one of my goals was, it is like me to shoot 200 straight, or it's like me to win, it is like me to be the SCTP junior national women's champion, or something like that.
And so that may be your objective for months.
Oh, a year.
Or it could be a year.
It was a long time. Yeah.
So, and I'm looking here, this is a shooter who's now in 8th grade, but it said, and this was 2 years ago, it's like me to shoot 25 straight. It's like me to be, to always have hard looks, which is kind of what you were talking about, looking for that dime on the, so that would be his focus. And then the section here that Lanny has outlined is, what did I do well today? So you only list out those things that you have been successful at, whether it's in shooting sports, whether it's in jiu-jitsu, whether it's in piano, whether it's at school. Yeah. I've had kids whose goal statement is, it's like me to do good in both mind and body. So then we list out, what are all the ways in which you've done something good today? Yeah. I made my bed. I did my homework on time. I showed up at school on time. Another one, it's like me to focus when doing my work, whether it's in school, at home doing homework. It's like me to not be interrupted when I'm taking a test. That was for someone who was facing anxiety. And then it's a great section here where you're running, what percentage of time did you run your mental system correctly or your technical system correctly? So we won't get into all that. And there's a section for, what did you learn today? Great reflection. There's just so much that we could talk about with this book. And the visioning, when it comes to the elements of self-image, the conscious mind, all of that, well, specifically self-image, goal setting, performance rehearsal, or self-talk, what have become the most important to you? Or are they all equal?
I'd say they're all equal, but in different times.
Okay.
So the self-talk is really important right after you've shot. And it's been very interesting to see my team develop this positive mental focus. And we've, as a team, decided that it's very important that after someone shoots, you can ask them how they shot, but they're not going to give you a score. They're going to give you, I shot really well today, or I really crushed those left-angled birds, or, it was a really fun time shooting with my teammates, or something positive. And that creates a mental image of like, oh, I can do the same thing. I can go out there and I'm going to shoot really well today. I'm going to crush those left-angled targets as well. And having that positive self-talk reshapes in your mind maybe what you heard from another person, like, oh, this course is really difficult, or the wind is really horrible today. And instead of focusing on the negative and what could go wrong, you're focusing on what you can control and what you can do positively.
Which Lanny says that when you focus, you go in which gaze you look.
The ways you look, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so, and similarly, physically with the target, like you said, where the eyes go, the gun goes. But also where the mind goes, the actions go. So that's what you're saying, is focusing on what you did well.
Yeah, yeah. And a couple of those other ones you mentioned are helpful, like visually rehearsing beforehand. That's really helpful for the night before, or a couple of minutes before. You're visually thinking about and visualizing what a target will look like, or how you're going to move to the target, and kind of like the conditions you'll be in. A lot of those help you formulate in your mind kind of like the mental space you need to be in before you go up and shoot.
I will say we've used that same envisioning tool with the students. Like, we know we have a test tomorrow. Okay, so how are we going to approach that? We're going to be doing our studying, or we're going to envision that we have successfully executed, the information on the test. Or if you have a hard conversation you have to have with someone, envisioning, what are the questions I'm going to ask to seek to understand first before being understood. Yeah. Or, whatever it is. So that visioning tool is, I think you could use it in so many ways.
Yeah, that's so true.
So let's move into just performing under pressure. The idea here is making this system tangible and memorable. So how have you found the mental management system? How has it changed you in terms of preparing for competitions, or in the moment? Do you have an example of how you've used it and how it's changed something for you?
So earlier this year, this happens, if not every time, then very frequently. Whenever you have a shoot off, or you're really focused on competing at the top level, there's no instance where you can't use it. And so just one off the top of my mind, though, is when earlier this semester I competed and tied with one of my teammates for third place in sporting clays at a regional competition. And I am still working on becoming a better sporting clay shooter. And so tying for third place for me was a big thing. That was really exciting for me. And so, and no less, it was with one of my teammates, which one made it more fun, but it also made it a little more stressful because at the time I was like, well, we both really want to win this and only one of us can take third place and the other's going to take fourth. And my whole team was watching us, which was fun because it was like, oh, I'm surrounded by all my friends. But then it also gets to be a little bit more stressful because you're like, I really want to do well now. And so I remember being really nervous and stepping up and seeing the targets and that we were going to be shooting for our shoot off, which were very difficult targets, and thinking, okay, how am I going to attack this? It's just another pair of targets. It's not a big deal. I'm going to forget, put my concrete block around me. Yeah. I'm going to forget that my teammates are behind me. I'm going to forget I'm competing against my teammate. I am going to just be focusing on this one target at a time and really focusing on the target, not anything else. And so I use this mental management system by thinking, okay, I have the goal of winning the shoot-off, but I'm not going to be focusing on that goal right now. I'm going to be focusing on a quiet mind. I definitely took a couple centering breaths because at the time I was pretty shaky, and just taking a minute and focusing on, okay, just one step at a time. I'm going to be focusing on the target. Was super helpful, and I ended up winning my shoot off. And it was a really fun moment because it proved to myself that using this mental management system in shooting specifically, but I mean, like you were talking about, in everyday life, is something that's really effective and successful.
So do you feel success at this level is less about avoiding mistakes and more about just recovering well?
To an extent, yeah, okay. I think so. It's interesting when you get to this level, you start trying to manage your low scores, meaning that when you're shooting, let's say when you're shooting trap, you kind of learn that, okay, if I don't shoot a perfect score, then I'm not going to be in the shoot-off at all. And so that means that, okay, if I miss a couple, I'm not going to turn this into a train wreck. You can't let that happen. And so you turn this into more of, okay, how can I go back to my fundamentals and how can I protect my low scores? And so instead of my low scores maybe being like out of 100, like a 90 or an 88, it turns into a 96 or a 95 on a lower day. And so instead of just totally giving up, you make sure to manage and control those low scores.
I like how Todd put it. He said, impress me with your low scores.
Exactly.
Yeah. So keep managing the lowness, you know, if you will. Yeah. Or manage the, just again, your mental management then goes into a different gear.
Completely. Yeah. And you don't want it to turn into defense.
No.
Which is interesting. Yeah. But you want to stay offensive and think, okay, I'm just moving on to the next target. It's just one target at a time. Protecting your low scores when you do start missing, but then not focusing on the misses themselves. Because if you start analyzing, and coach talks about letting the idiot come out and be like, oh, well, you were ahead and behind, or you were ahead and like to the right of that. That means you need to slow down and lead less. Like having all those words in your mind are not going to be helpful because in the moment, all you're going to want to do is shoot the target, but you're thinking about, then your conscious mind is going and your subconscious is now like freaking out because you can't like actually like execute what you've normally been doing. And so letting that idiot, so to speak, out of his little like slumbering mode will actually end up creating that train wreck for you. And so focusing more instead on, okay, if I missed one, kind of, I almost think of it as like the stages of grief, kind of. It's like you think about it, you accept that it happened, and when you move off the station or when it's your turn again, it's like, okay, sure, that was an unfortunate situation, and I'm really sad that maybe I let that go. But you know what? Can't let that doesn't bother me anymore. I'm going to move on, and we're going to keep on chugging. And
it's a good way to think about it.
So that's the way I've kind of thought about it in the past, because it's helpful to kind of be like, okay, mentally, I've accepted, I am working through that. I've kind of analyzed what went wrong and what I'm not going to do again next time. And just instead of obsessing over it and overthinking it, you kind of just think about it once, make an adjustment and move on. And
that's a great, I mean, I can see how that dovetails into just me being the head of school. That's oftentimes what I'm thinking about. If something doesn't go as planned, or you have to make a hard decision, or cancel school because of a snow day, and you're constantly like, am I making the right decision? You have to get to the point where you're like, okay, this is the reality of the situation. Adjust if you need to adjust, and move forward. You cannot dwell on the past. You've got to keep moving forward. So I can see. So that's a great dovetail into this next section, which is transferring this mental management into your academics or into your everyday life. Obviously, one of the things we care deeply about as educators is whether or not students are learning to transfer what they're learning in the classroom or on the field into just everyday occurrences. So can you talk about the mental management and how it might show up in your academics, maybe test taking, maybe talking with your peers, working with your coaches, maybe just cite one example of how you've utilized that.
In academics, like using the mental management system is really valuable because you're able to focus on one thing at a time. I know I keep saying that, but it's really valuable. Instead of looking at, if I've got a bunch of reading for English, math homework, science, and like logic and rhetoric, and I have no idea what to start first. Thinking about, okay, I'm going to prioritize, kind of like in shooting, you're like, okay, what's most important right now, my stance or the fact that it's windy? And you're like, no, fundamentals are most important, so I'm going to go back to fundamentals, my stance. So you're like, okay, what's most important? What's due tomorrow? And so that same idea of kind of prioritizing, okay, what's more important in this situation and what should I be focusing on first, really mirrors into academics as well, because you're able to focus on, okay, what do I need to prioritize? And then in test taking, like you were saying, like with students who might have anxiety with test taking, I remember like when I was taking the SAT in high school, I would definitely freak out when the timer got really low. And I learned from experience a couple of times that when you start freaking out and like it's like 1 minute left, you just start circling random stuff and just like not even thinking about what you're doing. But then I remember being like, okay, that's not actually helpful in any way. Like I might get one question right by guessing, but if I'm able to quiet my mind, slow everything down, and just focus on reading one question at a time and realizing that, okay, maybe I won't have all the time in the world to figure this out, but I'm just going to make the most educated guess that I can. And in standardized tests, that's helpful. And I mean, in my finals, I do this frequently. When you're running out of time and after 2 hours, you're kind of like, I'm ready to be done, but you're pushing through and you're deciding, okay, I have to make a choice about how I'm going to answer this question or the way I'm going to phrase this. And even though it's a small thing, making that adjustment and then continuing forward.
So how about socially? Has this helped with confidence or with comparisons or hard conversations with peers? Have you utilized this in any way?
Yeah. So actually, it's kind of funny. I remember in high school when I was visiting Hillsdale, at the time we had been using this beautiful journal frequently, and there were a lot of awesome goals that we've talked about. And I remember meeting one of the Hillsdale Shotgun team members and her asking me, like, what are some of your big accolades? And I hadn't even completed it yet. But just by mentally saying all of, like, every single day, like, I am the next junior lady champion, I literally almost said, I am the next junior lady champion. And I was like, I haven't even competed in that competition yet, but I'm already mentally there. And so having that confidence,
that's awesome.
It's so cool. And having that confidence has really transferred over, kind of thinking about, okay, what's the dream version of me? Who do I really want to be? And then being able to be that person and kind of almost fake it till you make it kind of idea in different scenarios. Like I was at a friend's birthday party recently and I was like, I don't really know anyone who's here. And so who would I want to be in this scenario? I would want to be someone who's outgoing and really good at talking to people and learning about, oh, how do you know my friend? And like, why are you here? And what do you love about her? And kind of just being the bigger person and being able to get out of my comfort zone a little bit and just like go out and just talk to people that I don't know. And I was able to do that at the birthday party. And it was a great time because I was able to learn about all of these amazing new people that I have never met before. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I didn't.
And then like if you're super nervous, I remember a time recently where I was having to have a really hard conversation with a friend. And I don't know if I've ever been more nervous in my life to have a conversation with a friend. And I just remember like I was shaking and it was a bad situation for me because I like was like, I can't focus. And one of my teammates was like, okay, you know what? You need to take a deep breath.
I was going to say, run the system, run the process.
Yeah. And so I literally was like, okay, I sat in my car and I was like, okay, centering breath. And so I did that a couple of times. And I visualized in my head how this conversation was going to go and what I was going to say and how they were going to respond and like what I could say when they responded in a certain way. And that was super helpful because then when I actually had to go have that conversation, I was like, okay, I have an idea of what I'm going to say. And it was really helpful because in the moment you're kind of like, things are just going to start coming out of my mouth and I don't know what I'm going to say. And so it was really helpful because then I kind of had a blueprint for what I wanted to say and they were able to respond and it ended up in a very cordial situation.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, it was a very
great examples.
Thank you. It was really good.
So it sounds to me like you've cited that the system has helped you become more intentional about who you're becoming, who you want to be, not just what you're achieving. I love that. So looking downfield, looking long view, and we'll kind of wrap this up with this question. How are you using this mental management system to kind of direct your own ship where you want to head? And do you have a vision as to where your life is headed now? And using and are you using the system maybe to help support that?
Yeah, I am. The goal setting is really valuable. Before every semester begins, back at college, I make goals as to what I want to accomplish during the semester. And I have some goals that are more physical, more academic, and more social, and then more personal as to what I want to accomplish. And then I go month by month, how am I going to accomplish these? And that's super helpful because long-term, then when you have a long-term goal, you're able to say, okay, I'm going to kind of walk it back and decide, okay, what are my first goal steps that I'm going to be making in order to achieve that long-term goal. And so using this mental management system has opened up without shooting, I wouldn't be at Hillsdale, and it changed my life. And so I think using this system is so valuable because you're able to focus on just what's the next step, while also having a long-term goal, which is so cool because then you're able to focus on two things at once.
The juxtaposition between the macro and the micro perspective, that is a skill in and of itself for your own personal self.
Yeah.
And then being able to execute it is the second component.
Yeah.
So if there was a young student coming into shooting or coming into anything that they want to become excellent at, is there any advice that you could give them that would be helpful to them, whether it's using this system or how they might approach becoming the best at whatever it is they want to do?
I'd say finding a process that's helpful for you, and a process being maybe it's just a simple mantra that goes through your mind. Like for Olympic shooting now, I think still guns, still eyes, and that's like what I think consistently. But I think, as cliche as this is, failing frequently, because as hard as it might be to fail, and I'm someone who loves to win, and so I know that it's not fun to fail, but I had to fail so many times in order to get here. I remember being so frustrated when I couldn't hit a 25 straight, but now after literally failing multiple times and realizing the lessons from those failures, I mean, that's become kind of like a major part of my life because I'm able to now take Like, I'll take my semester after it's been over. Like, this last semester, I'm like, what's a good lesson I've learned from this semester? What has been, like, I really had some tough challenges this semester. What can I learn from this that I won't have to repeat those hard things next semester? And you do that in shooting, and you can do that in academics. You can figure it out in life. And each one of those are going to shape you into being a much better person and being the person you want to be.
So embracing the failures. There's a great book called Failing Forward.
Oh, yeah.
And really looking at those failures and grasping those lessons out of those so that you can do better. And I would say then dovetailing that into this, which is Lanny focuses only on what did you do well?
Yeah.
You know? And so maybe turning those failures really into positives.
Yeah. And I mean, you can do that immediately. As soon, like, if you miss a target, you're like, okay, I missed ahead of that target. That means that I didn't get a good start and I didn't see the flash, which means I just need to go back to moving on the flash. And so you turn something that could have been focused on a failure, focused on, I missed the target, into, I just need to be moving on the flash. And I know how to do that. I've done that a million times. So I'm just going to do that on the next target.
Yeah.
And you can do that in life. Just like, that relationship didn't work out. What did I do wrong in that relationship? Okay. So I've learned something new about myself and I'm not going to make the same mistake.
Yeah. Wonderful.
Yeah. It's so cool.
I would say for me, this conversation, what stands out is this is not about medals. It's not about ranking. It's about the formation of the person you are becoming. And using that as you can then pursue excellence. You can pursue clarity, composure, your purpose, all through the systems that you're learning within shooting, but it can be applied in any facet in life.
Yeah.
And obviously that reaches lessons that reach far beyond sport. But it's winning at life.
Yeah.
Which honestly,
so
I would
true.
recommend any parent. You can read this, you can apply it to business, you can apply it to leadership, you can apply it to your family.
Yes. And he talks about that. How you can apply it like as a business person, or if you want to lose weight, or literally simple things in your life, you can apply this system to, which is amazing.
And he has another book, Parenting for Champions.
Yeah,
Parenting Champions.
Yeah, I think so.
I think that's what it is. That's another, I haven't read it, but it's, I'm sure, another good one. But anyway, thank you for these
thank you so much
great insights today. I'm hopeful that it will be helpful to our audience, whether you're a parent, whether you're a coach, a teacher, a supporter in anything, just in your own personal life. We've been with Marin McKinney for the last bit of time here, sharing insights as to how mental management can enhance your experience, enhance your direction in life. And what a great way to start the new year. This is perfect for goal setting or for anything else that we're envisioning in our life. So thank you for being with us, and we'll see you next time on the LadyK Podcast.
Thank you.